All right. Good afternoon, everyone. April 12th, tax week. So hopefully a lot of you realtors have already put in your requests to file your income taxes or your extension request. And just a kind reminder for us independent contractors, you do need to make your quarterly estimated payments towards your 2022 income tax return that you're going to be doing next April. So one strategy I use for tax planning and purposes is I don't like to do quarterly payments as an independent contractor. That means that, let's say I had a tax liability of $20,000 that I had to pay to Uncle Sam in 2021. Okay. So if that's my tax liability of $20,000 to Uncle Sam in 2021, you have to base a similar estimated quarterly payments spread every quarter, let's say $5,000 every single 3 months to Uncle Sam to be in compliance where I'm making my my estimated payments to the IRS on time. One strategy I use to avoid quarterly checks and payments towards IRS is, if you have the means, you could prepay or put all of your tax, what's called your rebate coming back. You could put all of that and apply it towards your 2022 estimated payments. So as independent contractors, just want to remind you, don't forget to put that estimated quarterly payments, because they will put a fine for late payment on these, which hopefully you don't want to do. So as you guys have or think of any questions to talk about, I wanted to share with you a little bit of how I work and operate on a transaction. So some of the things that I do to really go above and beyond as a listing agent, I want to make sure that I'm doing the best work for my client, which is the seller. And so one of my listings, for example, is currently in escrow at 2620 New York Drive, Pasadena. So let me start sharing my screen and getting into a little details what it's like of being a listing agent. And one of the first things I do is have awesome marketing. So what is that? So as I log into my listing, I really try my best to present the best information, features about the property, and eloquently describe it, accurately put the data and the square footage and all the size and everything in the MLS, and have someone else give you opinion on things. Okay, that's one thing that maybe you're missing, because a lot of times, a lot of you are putting your listing on the market without any eyeballs or what's called any critique. And so it's important to go ahead and ask other people for their opinion. What do you think? Where should I change? And one of the things I do is I tell and ask the seller to describe their property back to me. So in this instance, for my transaction, I do it in a very cute way where I ask the owner, you know the property better than I, you know the history, and I've asked the seller to provide me some details about his property, and I want to share and embellish all of the language that they've done with the work to help with the marketing and help with more of a proper description. So in this instance, I had 2 listings with the seller this year, and he gave me 2300 Hathaway. And he describes to me a little bit about what he did. He has a photo of him as a baby and his sister growing up in the 1950s at this property. And he talks about how he added a bathroom and the fence is a disaster. And there's different things about the history that I learned. But it really helps me build a good relationship with the owner when I'm able to understand what I'm selling. So I understand that the walls were broken and the fence was damaged due to earthquakes. And They rebuilt it. There's a pond back there. And the tree at the front was a small tree. Now it became a 1948. It's a 70-year-old giant tree. And he also gave me his description for New York Drive, where when they bought it at 1956 from the developer, and he talks about all the cool stuff about what they did to the property, like newer roof and the driveway was redone, beautiful oak tree, 100 years old, and stuff like that. There's stuff that things of these improvements that help me write a greater description. So at the end of the day, what does that listing look like? Well, look, I mean, first of all, if I pull up 2300 Hathaway, which actually just closed last Friday. So it goes to show I had an $898,000 listing asking price, and we sold 152 over asking price, okay, in less than 7 days. We did a lot of marketing efforts in which, I mean, take a look at my description. I mean, I really like what I did on this one because I described the age. It's a mid-century in a great location, right across the street from Atlantic, all the shopping malls and Atlantic AMC theaters, right by the 10 freeway. And it's a walking distance. It has potential to build an ADU guest house. It has a 9284 square foot lot, which is very rare. And you got hardwood floors, a nice brick fireplace, a long extra driveway, stuff like that. But this description, for one reason or another, it attracted about 250 people, live people, walking into my one open house weekend. It was 2 days. I got this sold in 2 days, 2 open house showings, and I had a lot of activity, a lot of multiple offers. And so if you look at the photography, we talked about that giant twig, giant tree that used to be a small twig. I just wanted to show off the property. It's big lot, and I had to work around the circumstances. This is an ugly fence that's falling down. I still put it in there. I'm not trying to hide anything, but I put together the nice open floor plan, and it is tenant occupied. So it was a more difficult sale because you have to deal with tenants allowing you to get inside, show the property, disturb their living arrangements, and they have a fear that they're going to get either kicked out or a higher rent in the future. So I'm working against so many variables that you as an agent need to be strong at. And I'm going to tell you the best way you always approach any tenant occupied property is you do it through respect. You listen, you be courteous, you be polite. And that's something that's understood by many of us, but it's a skill that to be able to build the trust of that tenant that you're going to be forced to work around and with for the next 30, 60, 90 days, right? So here's what I do. First, when the owner wants to sell a property that's tenant occupied, it's not easy. Showings is one of the hardest things to do because you have to disturb the tenant. A 24-hour notice sometimes. 2, you don't have full access keys, no lockbox, and it's very difficult to arrange everything when the property has so much furniture and there's going to be future problems such as inspections and an appraisal. So from day one, once I get my listing, I build that relationship, and I'm working towards a goal with the tenant to not disturb them as much. And one of the things that I do is I tell the owner, let's market this at an attractive asking price. Okay, for a single family at 900,000, that's attractive especially in this area. And the owner listened to me. That's not easy to get an owner to put a price lower than their own expectations of value. Even the Z estimate had it higher. All of the online valuation models have a higher estimate. But I had to ask for my faith and confidence in me. Let's put this price more attractive so that way we get a ton of activity, showings, and a lot of results. And we'll make the buyers compete in the open market to derive the market price and value. And that's really what's going on in today's day and age, is market value is greater than the actual cost or reflected appraisal value of many of the properties selling in the past couple of years. And so who's to say what's the property worth? Okay, when you understand valuations, any investor will look at this property and look at all the problems and look at all the costs that they have to remodel it. And they'll say, I value this at $1 million because I still have to put in $200,000. A buyer or a neighbor or someone else who lives nearby could value this higher because maybe my sister or my brother or cousin lives nearby and I want to be close to my family, and I will value this at a greater amount because I value family and I want to be within a block or walking distance to my family. So if you understand that concept that other people have the value belongs in the eye of the beholder, great, because that's what's going on today. And that's why you see so many buyers getting frustrated because another buyer wrote a stronger offer and valued that home greater than you did. Okay, don't blame the agent, don't blame the client, don't blame anyone. There's no blame. The market is this way, but that is how the MLS serves its purpose. It derives market value for us through the offers, through the agents, and through the activity. So I'm not afraid of pricing a property low in a low inventory market. And it takes some skill sets from you as an agent to convince and persuade the seller to agree with your selling strategy. But there's many different strategies how you can do it, okay? So this is one example of this property. We got it sold quickly, everything performed on time. And the buyer's agent was and the buyer are very excited to pay way over asking because they're investors that are looking to take and utilize the lot size, which allows for a small guest house maybe, or an expansion. Now, if you go back and look at my other property, I did something different, okay? So when I look at my current inventory of my property in escrow, I have one here on New York Drive, which I was talking to you about. And if you look at my history on this one, it's the same strategy. We came out relatively the same time. Initially, we came out at 1.033 million. And my strategy backfired on me, okay? My owner wanted a stronger price on this. He wanted over 1.1 million. And I felt I would have a lot of activity and showings. And guess what? After the first 2 open house weekends, we didn't have any offers at that price. So instead, I told the seller, look, my strategy didn't work. I don't know what it is. There was another listing down the street that was cheaper. That one kind of took away some of my traffic. So at the end of the day, within 3 weeks, I asked the seller, I need to do something different, okay? The offers that we were getting, because we had offers, but they were a little over asking, not substantially over asking. So I said, seller, I'm not getting the activity I want. I need to talk to you. If you really need to sell this property, and you tell me your bottom line. And he told me 1.15, okay? So I said, okay, I'm going to change the price and I'm going to make it tougher for myself to sell this property. But if I get a property offer at 1.15, I want you to really focus and shift towards that new price. So I'm on your time. I'm on your team. I'm going to increase the price by 117,000 to reach your goal. And guess what? I did it. And 8 days later, I did another open house weekend and I got it under contract. Okay. That's not easy to do. It's not hard. It's hard to tell your seller that you're not performing and you don't have results. But I don't shy away or hide from my client. I gave them transparency. I gave them weekly updates. I let them see the offers that were coming in, and all the offers were very lowball or very close to that old price of 1.033 that I could not get the activity unless I changed the reflected value online. So it's not easy. What is this property like? You could read it down here that I have a great property. It's 11,420 square feet. I mean, 1.15 was within my estimated value. And actually maybe a little bit higher than this was my estimated value to what I gave the CMA. So in this instance, I didn't get the same result, but I did get an outcome that the seller is very happy with. Here's a look at the property. I got a gorgeous oak tree that I like, but some buyers said I can't build around this. So they don't like this. And investors know oak trees are protected. But we have attractive photography, nice space. It has an old antiqued feel where they kept this property maintained, with a cabin-like feel. But it was difficult to show because all of the tenants' belongings are there and large furniture. And, there's different things about this property that were inhibiting me from getting a great offer. One of which is most buyers who want to pay market price, they want it delivered vacant, okay? And that was the number one thing holding me back on this property, is because I promised the seller that I would get an offer where they sell the property and take the tenants with them. So I asked and gave instructions, read my instructions to the clients, okay? Do not walk on property without the tenants. I gave them their monthly rent. It's month to month. And I asked them that, where is it here? Seller prefers to sell as is condition with tenant in place. And I tell them, I give instructions, use form TOPA with your offers. And some improvements may have not been constructed without permit. A garage conversion was done with us. I give transparency. And so in this situation, people are afraid of, well, if I share too much information, isn't that going to scare people away? Yeah, it might, but it also shows transparency where you're truthful and people want to work with people who are truthful and honest. And that may, you're not looking for 100 offers. You only need one buyer to love this property. So I encouraged all visitors to come during my open house, and eventually we got it sold. I'm very happy. No, we're in escrow and sold at a price that the seller is very happy with. So that's a little bit about how I work with tenants in place, but there's a strategy to this, okay? And I think it's important to have a lesson on this. Whenever you sell a property with tenant occupied, okay, you need to kind of separate yourself as the decision maker and let them know your role and duty and your purpose for being there. So whenever I come to a new tenant and I'm saying introduce myself, I always start with a few focus things on my mind, prepared to the situation. And so number one, I introduce myself and I'll say something like, hi there, in this situation, hi there. I'll just, a tenant, my name is Kelvin Chang. Nice to meet you. Thank you for confirming my appointment the other day. I want to just introduce myself in person because I really want to make sure, I have a good relationship with you. As you know, the seller is hiring me for the duty of selling his property. And for various circumstances, the seller appreciates you being here and values you as a tenant. But in this circumstances, especially with the passing of someone in their family, the seller has made the decision to sell the property. And I get it. I know, I see, they share with me your rental contract. I can respect you've been here for 7 years. And the owner is very thankful and appreciative that you've been maintaining the property and done, you've been a good tenant with them. But I'm here as a real estate broker. Here's my card. And I wish to talk a little bit about the sales process and maybe work collaboratively together on structuring things out where I don't have to disturb you too much. You don't have to worry too much about the owner kicking you out or renting it. This is the deal that I talked to the owner about. If I can build a good relationship with you where we can conduct showings and conduct some of the activities involved in selling a home, I can get my word from the owner, you will not be forced out or kicked out of this property while under this ownership. Okay, I cannot guarantee anything in the future, but but because of this situation where we don't, we have a couple of routes to take. Obviously, this would sell higher and better for the owner if this property was vacant. But I understand you have a desire to stay here as long as you possibly could, because I know it's going to be interruption to your life, to your business, to your family, to your work. So here's what I want to do. Let me tell you a little bit about what goes on in the sales process. I have some idea of how we can structure this out. First of all, have you read your lease contract regarding selling the property? Okay. Well, in the lease contract that you have, there's a clause in here, paragraph 9, that says when the owner sells the property and gives you a notice of sale and entry, here's the form signed by the owner, and I'm giving it to you right now that the owner has intentions to sell the property. They have a 24-hour right to access the property for showings, for visitors, for inspections, for appraisers, for various peoples. Okay. I know I don't want to be as an agent and with very experienced, and I'm very respectful of you and your lifestyle. I don't want to make your life turn upside down. I don't want to disturb you within 24 hours. I wish to work cooperatively where we plan ahead together, you and me, on deciding when we can give me your allowable hours and when I can conduct open house. Is that fair if I can structure and plan ahead and we can do and focus on March 17th and March 16th, 2 to 5 p.m. Let's do open house for this weekend and next weekend. And I won't disturb you in between. Is that fair? And then I talked to him about the sales process. After I get an offer that's accepted in escrow, Mrs. Tenant, here's how it's like. The buyer likely will come back a few more times during the escrow period. One is for the home inspection. They might come back for measurements and a second opinion from a roofer, a plumber, and this and this. And we had to send an appraisal. At minimum, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 other visits after we open escrow. But don't worry, I will be here. I will watch for your belongings. I will make sure to keep things very quick and organized, and you don't have to disturb you too much. All we need to do is just open the door. So when explaining it in this manner, with respect, politeness, and with listening to their input on how they wish, she described, yeah, I work in the day, Monday to Friday is very hard. Weekends, I also work from home, but I can be out of your way, but can I still be here? There's different needs that she had as well. And I said, I can accommodate all of those. Okay. And she said, you can? Okay, great. And so we had and shook hands. We agreed upon the arrangements, the showing schedules, and she's lived up to her word. Okay. And the only way you can get this far is if you begin and start with what's called good listening ears, watching for the body language, holding back some of the things that you want to say, and always delivering things respectfully. Don't ever say words that could be discriminatory or create animosity between one another, or don't overstep your boundaries trying to solve problems that are not your problem. Because a lot of times tenants and landlords have their own internal disputes, and you don't want to be there pushing buttons, triggering one of the tenants to pursue or chase the landlord for something, or old repairs, or maybe it reminds them of something where they get a notice to vacate the property that's improper or insufficient time, like 30 or 60 days notice to vacate. You don't ever want to be in the middle of a dispute that they probably might have already had, especially during COVID. Many of these tenants weren't paying rent and are behind X amount of thousands of dollars. So I highly suggest you put your differences aside and label yourself more like the middleman. look, I'm not the landlord. I understand that you have a situation. I get it. COVID has been terrible for everybody. I even my own family members that they couldn't pay their rent too. And they applied for the state funds for some AB 1142. So Assembly Bill 1142 allowed for tenants to apply or landlords to apply for 80% of the delinquent rent, as long as it was residential 1 to 4. So I hope you explore this. And if you want to know more resources, check this website out. It's called housingiskey.org or gov. And you can check this out. It's a website where you can learn more about getting 80% of the back rent paid by state funds by taxpayers, you and I. So utilize it, take advantage of it, learn about this, and then you can hopefully get this absolved from your history, because at the end of the day, I know the landlord doesn't want to chase you for the money, but at the same time, there's $20,000 worth of back rent that the owner has told me that has accrued up to this point. And in this situation, I'm so sorry. I know, I get it. I know a lot of people lost their jobs and it's hard to find stable work. But let me show you and explain things from a landlord's perspective. And don't get it. I'm not that person. I'm not the owner, but this is what was communicated to me. One, $20,000 back rent. Two, they've asked you to vacate kindly a couple of times in the past, but there's been no response back. There's been some miscommunication in the past, but I'm here hopefully to be the middleman, but I'm only the messenger. So you don't shoot the messenger is what they say. I'll tell you, let me help at least hear some of your comments that I can report back, and I'll report some of the things from the owner. So I've been acting as a middleman. It's very difficult selling property with tenant occupied. And that is the number one reason why when you're a listing agent, I ask you, don't just write and promise a commission rate when you take a listing. Because when you deal with a property that has this situation and circumstance, it's a lot more work on your end as a listing agent. Having these conversations and working both sides of the tenant and landlord, and communications, notices, and disturbances, and all of this stuff is so much easier when the property is vacant. But when you have a tenant occupied property, I charge more on my commission rate. Okay. In fact, I charge 5.5% for my 2 listings. And so you can see that I offer a fair amount out to the cooperating broker. And that's because they have to deal with a lot of stuff too. So the incentives need to be there. Don't be a discount agent if you're going to have to put yourself in this difficult situation. You have to make it worthwhile, your time, effort, and energy. So I encourage you to use circumstances, how to justify your price. If someone says, oh, the seller says, oh, I know a discount broker, they'll do it for 1% listing fee. I'm like, you can try them, but please don't use them for too long, because you're going to get what you pay for. And these guys might get you into litigation because they work on volume. And these discount brokers don't know how to do what I do delicately with tenants. And you could open up a can of worms working with an unprofessional person who doesn't know how to delicately handle situations that are very, very, to me, combustible. When you have back rent owed and you have animosity between landlord and tenant, things could backfire very, very bad. It's not even worth me taking a listing for 1% because of the liability that it opens up me to for being the middleman. Because when you're a middleman, you're also cross-complainted against anytime there's a situation where that tenant or that landlord is not happy with the outcome. Okay, so that's another point of advice, is to know your value. Know the time involved that you're going to have to spend selling a tenant-occupied property. In any case, we're in escrow. We do a home inspection report, and I want to share with you what a home inspection report looks like. Okay, because this is an imperfect home. Do you guys see this home inspection up here on my page? I'm pulling it up right now. Hopefully you can see it.
Right. Yes, Elite group.
Elite group. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand and how to interpret a home inspection report. And I know oh, there's only 2 pages. Let me get the other one. Hold on. Thanks, Joan. It's important to understand the purpose of the inspection really quickly. The home inspection is to give an independent, quick observation of the conditions and defects existing at that property. It's not all inclusive. They're not going to price out the value, or they're not going to tell you how severe things are. They are going to note the areas that should be investigated and looked at closer in the event of a buyer wanting to buy this property. So they will always make recommendations to consult with another professional, a mold person, a termite person, a sewer person, a roofer, an electrician, whoever it is. There's other professionals involved that can give a better quote estimate for the existing defects. All they're there to do is to point them out and the accessible areas. If you look here, if you're a buyer looking at the summary page of this home inspection and you look at all of these red items, you might get scared. Okay. In this situation, there's 2-3 pages of corrections and notice and defects. But when it comes down to it, it's important as a buyer's agent interpreting the results on the findings to take emotions aside and provide a little bit of background. So what do I mean? So if I'm a buyer's agent, I'll tell the buyer, look, they have a duty to inspect everything and write comments on everywhere that's within their reports. We are using a good inspection company, I can tell you that. They're very thorough, they're detailed, they'll go into the crawl space and they'll go into the attic. But at the same time, when the property is furnished and when no home is perfect, there's always going to be remarks on every single area, because they have a duty to show that they've been there and take photos, and they're going to try to cover their butt, which is make notes for even small things. Okay. So when we talk about the walls, there's some crack holes and chipped dirty areas, cosmetic blemishes, this and this and that. So yeah, this is written that this is normal for California. There are earthquakes. You are going to have settlement cracks. You're going to have areas at the drywall and near the windows where you have surface cracking. So these are all there. The ceiling conditions, you'll see some of these blemishes. So at the same time, this is nothing scary, right? Yeah, you have ceiling fans, you have this and this and that. So, they take pictures of the flooring and the condition, and there could be some surface scratches that are worn. Hey, this property is 70 years old. Of course, there's going to be some damages to the property, right? So I explained this, and then, the buyer's not, they walk through it already. The buyer's seen it. They know there's some scratches and they can resand it. So I tell them what could be done. Oh, you could always, hardwood floors like those oak wood floors. This is a very premium product. It's a very durable. It's lasted 60 years. This could last another 50 years, maybe, if you do maintenance. You could sand it down and put a new polish on top and really get this to shine again and bring back that age. These surface scratches could be fixed. Okay. It's expensive, but it's not as expensive as replacing the entire floor. And you can get these and preserve these for another, X amount of years. But the door latches are not broken. Look, you can get this replaced. These are considered cosmetic fixes. And so, yes, it's not operating its latch. It has some damage in here, but you can get a locksmith and you can fix this door, maybe $100 to $200. In fact, you probably are going to change your locks anyways when you buy the home, aren't you? So you should probably just go ahead and put a smart lock or a Schlage or one of these high-end lock companies like, Master Lock. They sell at Costco. You can buy a new one for about $180. I'll share with you a link. So I tell them the defect, I report it, but I give them a positive spin. And I show them what the cost of material of some of these items are. So look, there's ones with codes, or you can put your thumbprint. And this one at Costco is very smart. Maybe it's worthwhile. You just do it on your own later on. It's not a make or break item. What's really most important is whether this is a great location and the structure and the value and the price is good to you. Cosmetic stuff that's minor that can be replaced. We priced this into our offer anyways, didn't we? Okay. All right, let's get through this. So they have some damages to the security screens and the fencing. They have dirty tracks. This is nothing. It's just, you just need some maintenance and cleaning and put some WD-40, a little bit of elbow grease, and you can have a nice home. Okay. So I go through this. I'm not going to go through every page, but I want to go through a couple of the defects of areas. There is damage in the fireplace. It's worn. The dampener doesn't open. Electrical. This is not scary when they say that it's not grounded. It's maybe about $40 per receptacle to replace it and ground it properly, replacing those receptacles. It's inexpensive for any electrician to do this. If you have worn cabinets, hey, that's what it is. The scratches, there's going to be, that's nothing scary. Smoke detectors need to be there. Carbon monoxide needs to be done. This is nothing new to you guys as realtors. So those, yes, you have to do those repairs and compliance. No defects here and here and here. Floor conditions is this and this and that. More receptacles would need to be done. Scratches on the flooring and the damages to the closet doors. So nothing here that's out of the ordinary, right? But when we looked at this, there was like 3 pages of damages. So some people think it's scary. This one is a crack that's due to, if you look at this window, moisture was coming in from the outside. Okay, this whole area, the wall, shows bubbling. That's a key metric that moisture, whenever you see bubbling, there has been evidence of moisture intrusion. So I pointed this out. I told the tenant and I told the buyer, and we're going to address this issue. But eventually, this is a situation that's we're negotiating this right now. That is a defect. Okay. But other than that, nothing really to do bad. It's a nice looking home. Yeah, you need to do some regrouting. Yes, you got to do some cleaning to your tracks on your windows. Some of the latches may be painted shut. There's termite damages. So this is all normal, ordinary home stuff. But yeah, there's gaps here and there. So at the end of the day, when you read through this, nothing is really that scary. Cold air was not present in one of the sinks, stuff like that. Okay. But when you read through this, really make sure you separate emotions and try to just get to a few key points. Any questions while I want to pause right now? So understanding a little bit about bathrooms. This is where I want to reduce liability. We had a discussion on mold last Thursday with an attorney. And Kelly Richardson taught us a lot about how mold really isn't that harmful to you to breathe unless you have asthma or pre-existing conditions. So this is a situation where you see dark spots, growing surface mold in areas on the tiles, and that needs to be regrouted, okay? So normally, all you got to do is bleach the area, do a nice wipe through and scour it, and it can come off. Does this need to be mold inspected technically? No, this is surface mold. You can clean this out. The attorney was telling you don't need to take samples of this and this. It's obvious. This is growth. It's called organic growth. Micro organisms are here, and there's moisture in the air. And it's probably because there's too much moist air and you didn't open the window, you didn't have a ventilation on, and that got trapped. So this allows for growth. You can see moisture readings here in the area in the wall. So we should take a look at this, buyer. You should bleach this or replace it or do what you want in the future, but it's nothing that requires you to demolish this. Okay. I put them at ease. There's more areas by the toilet. There's areas under the sink. So you're going to see this stuff in older homes. Okay. But this home is pretty good. You got to clean your fans and this and that. Speaking towards other areas, nothing major. I mean, there's a few broken tiles. There's some scratches here. tile and grout needs to be redone a little bit in certain areas. So, but that's how you read the home inspection report. This is not really that difficult, right? Okay, so they test everything. You have dirty fixtures and handles, and a good WD-40 or a cleaner can take all of this. You put some polish on it, and it'll bring back the shine. That's the cool thing about metals, is you don't have to throw it away. You could recycle, you could reuse it. Just take some proper cleaning chemicals. Okay, so that's how you read an inspection report. They test the appliances, the burners. This one looks like it's been burnt already for some reason. They have an electric oven. Hey guys, I've never seen an oven like this old in such good shape, but the owner restored it. It's got a nice antique look to it, back from the 1950s, and still operates. So anyway, that's the inspection report. Don't get if this is what I told another agent the other day. If you make things a big deal, your client will also make it a big deal. Okay, so if I'm a buyer's agent and I go, look, there's so many problems, this is a defect, we need to get a credit or repair for this, this is so blah, blah, blah. Guess what? You're gonna make the expectation of getting repairs performed or this and this and that, and that's not in your control. A lot of times you've signed an offer that said you're purchasing this as is, and you may not get that cooperation from the seller. They might say no to all of your requests for repairs. And some instances, agents have had to pay for that out of their own pocket because they promised something that they couldn't get. I don't want that to come out of your pocket. So don't make promises, but you will make efforts. Don't create issues to be problematic, like, oh, this is mold here, it says so, look, it's black. If you make this a very big problem, they're going to get scared, they're going to cancel, they're going to do this and this and that, or they're going to make you pay for it, or the seller. So I try to make very little emotions towards property. It's normal for his age. This is an issue. How do you want to address this? And I don't think mold is actually as big of an issue. Here's what I'll do for you. Before making any decisions, I want you to watch this video from this attorney. And he talks about mold. And then for me, I'm going to share our video. It's on the YouTube channel. I'll upload it. You can use it for your advantage whenever you deal with mold in the future. So you can use this as in your weapons to pull out of your arsenal of tools. Whenever you have a client who says, I'm so afraid of mold, I have asthma, my child has asthma, or I can't live with mold. Okay, mold is everywhere, guys. Every home has mold. So moisture is everywhere, even if you have a well-ventilated room. So anyway, it's just when it becomes a certain level, it could become in the air spores and you could breathe it. But at the same time, that the attorney was saying that same sample of air could be way different from today from it is tomorrow, and whether you have an open door or whether that door is closed. So anyway, I hope you guys watched that class. It was a great class by Kelly Richardson, and I'm going to go ahead and share that with you guys on my YouTube channel because I think it's very valuable to bring up in this situation. Any questions right now on the inspection report before I jump onto appraisals? Okay, so that this same property was recently conducted an appraisal. And so I'd like to share the findings and teach you how to read an appraisal report. Okay, because if you read an appraisal report, you can get so lost in the shuffle that it might just really, you might be missing a certain key point. Let me pull it up. All right. Do you guys Oh, hold on one second. Let me share my screen again. You guys should be able to see my appraisal report right now. Okay, it's in very small print. And if you look here, this is a 29-page document. Appraisals. Let's talk a little bit about them, because they have been very problematic to many transactions today. Appraisals are hired independently by the lender and bank to give an independent value of the property. What is the purpose of the appraisal? Is to give a current estimated value of that property reflecting its current condition and the defects, as well as what the comps are. And they will utilize this report to base what is the maximum the lender will lend on according to its appraisal value. So if you have a buyer who wants to pay 20% down to purchase a home, the bank will give you 80% conventional financing on the 80% of the appraisal value. If you have a low appraisal value, they'll give you 80% of the lower value. They will not give you the conventional, for that program, that's what they will base it on. And your buyer might have to pay a little bit more out of pocket because of the under appraisal. This is what we're experiencing in today's age, where the market value is significantly higher than appraised values. Why? Well, because in a rising market, like we've experienced in the past year, the appraisers are catching up to the values. And they are only limited to look at the past 6 months when they use their techniques of appraisal of comps. And in a rising market, the prices 6 months ago are lower than they are today, correct? So the other point of things is the market values have multiple offers and buyers waiving contingencies and writing very strong above asking offers, whereas the buyers in many instances in the past 24 months are buying emotionally. They really want that lot. They really want that yard. They really want this location. And they are making emotional offers, and they're closing them emotionally at a price that's higher than the market justified based on comps. So it's okay. There's nothing wrong with a buyer overpaying for a property, because like I said in the beginning of this class, value is on the eyes of the beholder. We don't have to dictate or tell them how to value things. That's not our job. We're here to provide comps, provide estimates, and review the reports and negotiate to success, but the value is not our job. So let's talk about this property. Let's talk about the appraisal and how that's hurting many people in causing escrows to fall apart today. See, the appraiser has to follow 3 methodologies in how they approach the appraisal. One is what we all know, the sales comparison approach. Everyone studied this in your licensing for real estate, that there's 3 methods: sales comps, the income approach, and the replacement cost, the construction value. So when the appraiser comes in, they will use these methodologies and pick the highest form to hopefully give you the best value that the bank can lend on. So that way they minimize the bank's risk of default. My price was reflected to be 1.033. Okay. And it's an arm's length transaction, no personal property included. And when you read this, it's nice to spend some time to understand this, because they do look careful consideration on your days on market. They show that I've had a price increase, which I already told you guys about at the beginning of the class. They'll give the location and Kinaloa Ranch, which is a very nice area, Pasadena, and the contract price. Okay. So they'll put that in, they'll provide some descriptions. They'll tell you about the characteristics and whether or not it is within legal conforming use or non-conforming, stuff like that, zoning. This is a normal good home. and it's maintained, and it shows public sewer, public gas and electricity and all this stuff. So that's cool, right? So when you read this, read the notes that are filled out besides what are the descriptive items. And that is why I embellish my property description so much. Okay, so you want to write all the good stuff that was done, like owner performed many major upgrades 5 to 6 years ago, full bathroom, water heater, electrical panel, AC and heat, newer roof, fencing and driveway, stuff like that, right? When I do my appraisal, I always, as a listing agent, meet the appraiser myself. I don't allow an assistant to go for me. I don't just let the tenant open the door, because I need to do my job as a listing agent, which is defend and the contract value. So when I go there, I'm very professional. I'm on time or early, and I have the place prepared. What are my prepared items? Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, water heaters, dual strapped. The fire garage door has a fire rated self-closing latch to the door, only if that's an attached garage. If you have a detached garage, you don't have to worry about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to do a little bit more reading of what's code is. It's important to know materials and in construction materials, but a door to the garage that's attached should be rated to resist fire, to be retardant, to be able to resist fire from the garage. Anyway, getting back to the appraisal, I meet them, I welcome them, I'm on time, and I greet them. Hey there, appraiser, how are you? I'm Kelvin Chang, the listing agent for the property. I appreciate you being here on time, and I got the place already. Everything is open. I've even opened up a few windows, and you can let me know anything you want or need. Just let me know. You want to start on the outside first, because they usually start on the outside and take pictures. And then usually I'll meet them sometime, let them do the work. I don't disturb them or anything. But a little bit later on, maybe 5-10 minutes later, after they finished around doing the measurements around the building, I'll say, okay, I'm still here if you need anything. But just to let you know about the interior, these are some of the key things I wanted to communicate to you, what's been done on this wonderful property here at the number one. The owner did replace the water heater. You can see there's a 200 amp electrical panel. This is where it's located right here. We replaced the central AC machine. You see that at the rear of the building. It's newer construction. I think it was about 7 years ago it was done. And they did the full bathroom, and they did all this paint here and there. Oh, and we did do a conversion of the garage, but it's done in a workmanlike professional manner. There's a laminate flooring. I had 2 areas of wall heaters and air conditioning units as well installed in here. And this belongs to the Pasadena School District, but technically speaking, this area by Kinaloa Ranch is a more highly desirable area. And look at this lot size. This is amazing. This is an 11,000 lot. I can tell you so many people when I was here, a lot of offers and activity on this property, but when you can see what you see online is reflected. We did increase the offer because there was so much offers on the property. And we believe that this is a very great offer and price. And we did send multiple counters out. So I hope this is helpful to you in any way, but I'll let you do your job. I'll let you go ahead and do your comps and the area. Just want to make sure you're aware of A, B, and C best features of this property, especially its lot size. Okay. So every unique property has its own best features, and make sure you understand and communicate them clearly. So when you go back into the report, they're going to show you the methodologies that they used. And going back to this, they make some notes. It's average quality and reflects average condition, no major repair needed, everything's good and working, no physical functional inadequacies. So these are all good comments. Those are positive. They'll give you comps in here. There's comp 1, comp 2, comp 3. The subject property is right here. This is the address, and they have a comparison description of the square footage, of the bedroom counts, the lot size, and they have their own methodology to show if they make any adjustments to the value. And at the end of the day, they write an addendum in here, but he gave me a value above my asking price and above my asking and above the offer price. So that helps me because that helps the lender get this approved for a loan. Okay, so I'm happy to see an over appraisal because that tells me we're good on the appraisal. So despite the market not coming up to this price, that's okay, because at the end of the day, we have a contract now and they gave me 1.19, and this is the page you always look for if you just try to cut to the chase. This is the value right here. Every appraisal follows the same format. They'll give you more notes, okay? They have experience, their exposure time is considered normal, and all utilities on, and then they performed it to the best of their ability. Then there's the cost approach to value, which I already talked to you guys about, and the replacement cost approach value this also around 1.190 to replace this. And then they have all this language and fluff, but these are more details about comparables number 4, comparables number 5 that they used, their lot sizes as well, what their price per square foot was, and whether it was on the market or not. A lot of times, if it's not on the market or it's an arm's length transaction, appraisers will not use that in their value. If I sell to a cousin or a family member at a lower value, that usually is not used for comps. Then they use other factors in here, like what's called the market conditions right now. Everything is very stable, blah, 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 blah. So that's how you really read these reports. I don't know if you've ever spent the time on this, but you do want to take a look at how they do this. Don't just look at the value only. It's important because they give you a sketch. They'll write you some dimensions of the square footage, how they taped it using their machine. It's just a little roller. Sometimes they have a laser. They tell you where the comps that they pulled are. And in my area, this area is technically better than some of these areas right here. Okay, so that's why I wanted him to make the difference, that the higher north you are up on the foothills, the better the valuations are. So I made that adjustment. I made that clear. And so that's it on the appraisal. Any questions on how I conduct an appraisal? Okay. The rest is just photos and fluff. So when you come down to this, if some of you are experiencing issues of what happens, Kelvin, if this property were to underappraise my price, 1.150. Well, there is certain things that could be done. A lot of times they say, can I get another appraiser? I mean, technically speaking, you could, but let's decipher and read these results. I've successfully been able to get an appraiser to change their opinion of the appraisal when I've justified it. And by only way you can justify it is by reading through the comps that they used and the method they used. So there are times when I challenged an appraiser. Guess what? People don't like to be challenged. They don't like to be told how to do their job or that what they did was wrong. So you have to tastefully, respectfully, and professionally ask them to reconsider their value, because this is what I found. Comp number 4 and 5 you used were not in the same school district. My property was in this school district, and this school district, as you can see here, has a rating of a 9 and a 10, and that city that you pulled has a rating of a 6 and a 7. That is something that I feel is an adjustment that might be made if you can consider it, please. Here's another difference. The orientation of this home. For some reason in this Asian community, this value is better because this property is facing south or it's facing east. And this orientation is a little bit highly desirable. And the comp you used over there this property actually belonged in a T intersection, or this had some sort of busy noise area. It was adjacent to a industrial building, or the stuff like that. So when I find flaws in their comparables, they could reconsider it and put stronger weight and emphasis towards the other comps that I'm asking them to use. I can supply further comps. So I have done it where I've provided them. Is there a reason why you did not use comp number 5 and number 6 that I want to provide to you? Check this one out. And I believe this is actually a very strong comparable. I'm wondering why you left this one out. Because it has this, and this feature that they share in same, and it's within only 2 months, and it's relatively closer in the time frame of this market. That comp you used over there was 6 months ago, and this market is much different than it was 6 months ago. Can you put stronger emphasis towards the most recent comp that I want to share with you? So when I challenge it, and the way I phrase things, it shows that I know what I'm doing, and that I've actually spent the time on looking at their work. They respect someone who looks at their work and can provide the challenges professionally, like how I just mentioned how you can do it. So I hope this helps you in your future business, whether you're a listing agent or a buyer's agent. Reviewing that inspection report, reviewing and conducting yourself to the appraiser is important. Don't put a low appraisal to cause your escrow and your paycheck to fall apart. Don't miss this step. It's very important when we see, and what I expect in the next 12 months to be considered a stable or slightly declining market in the luxury area. I can see these causing some deals to fall apart when you get a low appraisal. So let's avoid that in the first place. Let's really be in good shoes and good communications and helpful to that appraiser, so that way he can help you get your paycheck. Okay. All right, guys, that's it for today, unless you have any questions. All right. Well, thank you for being here.